Armin, let's start with some background. Like, what's going on? The Iran nuclear deal, what's the status? Who wants to revive it? Is it going to happen? And how does the election play into it and everything else that's happening?
Right. So the expectation was that the Biden administration is gonna, when he comes back in power, he's just gonna like come in right away, get back to the deal and everything. Didn't really play it out that way. And there's a lot of discussions about why is it not happening as fast as a lot of people, including the people in Iran, assumed it would. Um, and it's very interesting because there's politics happening within both uh, U.S. and within Iran, and also the Biden administration, as much as they criticize Trump's maximum pressure policy on Iran, they actually want to take advantage of it, right? They don't want it to go to waste, right? And there's different interests both within the United States and within Iran. I think Iran's government. I think a lot of people kind of assume that this is a very Iran versus U.S. kind of thing, but it's more. It's a little bit. It's more complicated than that. It's more people in the United States and in Iran who want the deal to happen versus people in the United States and within Iran government who don't want the deal to happen. Right. So that's, I think, a better way of looking at it. And also people within Iran's government who pretend that they don't want the deal to happen, but they actually do want the deal to happen.
Yeah, well, that's classic. But so wait, let's talk about, do you have any, can you give us like ballpark percentages? So you're saying that the two sides are the people in Iran and the US who don't want the deal to happen versus the people in Iran and the US who want it to happen. And what is,
no.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the percentages are. It matters who's in power, right? It matters who has the control. In Iran, like a lot of people think like, oh, there's elections happening, and right now the reformists are in power, and the reformists are going to lose this. It seems like they're going to be losing this election, and we have only 1 month left until the election. And right now the negotiation is happening in Vienna. Indirectly between United States and Iran, with Europeans being the middlemen. And they think like, oh my God, we only have 1 more month to the election, and it seems like any day now. Guy, by the way, by the time the audio version of this might come out, things are like, the deal is moving back and forth like very quickly. Like every day things are changing, and by next week we might have a deal, we might not have a deal, we don't know, right? But things are people like want to escalate this thing because Rouhani only has 1 more month in office, and they're like, okay, we need to get this done before the hardliners come into power, and then we lose all opportunity because the hardliners will be against the deal. It's really not that simple. The idea of the reformists, you have to deal with the reformists, and that's the only chance you have to have a nuclear deal, is completely dismissing the fact that the reformists are not in power. At the end of the day, if Khamenei doesn't want the deal, if he's not happy with how things are going, the deal will not happen, whether the reformists are in power or not. And if he's happy with the deal, he will give it, like behind the scene, he will give it a green light. In public, he will save face and he will act like he's like taking a tough stance, but behind the scene, he will give it the green light, whether the reformists are in power or the hardliners are in power. I mean, when we say in power, like it's a show. They're not really in power. At the end of the day, Khamenei is like making all the decisions, making decisions. So yeah, basically this transition of power between the going from the reformers to the hardliners in the upcoming elections, it's just a facade. Like it's a joke. It's not real. The decisions are being made by Khamenei. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question before you go on? Because we're going to go into that, like what's happening to the election and the sole candidate that's pretty much expected to win. But it's supposing, and this is what I mean about it, like you're right, like it's the people who are in power. It's not the people who are running. But if you're running for election for president in Iran and you want to get more votes, what position do you take? We're going to revive the deal, or we're not going to revive the deal, or do you just not talk about it?
Right. So, okay, depends on who your audience is, right?
Well, I mean, you want to get more votes. You want to win the election. So what do you say? What position do you take?
The elections have been engineered. You don't really... Okay, so here's the thing. The people okay, so we have, let's, if we want to, this is such a simplistic version of it, so I'm just take that with like 5 or 6 grain of salt. But if we categorize the people between the people who want to end the regime, the people who want reform, and the people who love the regime, right? The people who love the regime, they're against um, negotiations with the United States. They're like, we don't need them. We could survive this. The sanctions will make us tougher. Blah blah blah. We will survive this. And the leaders of this group of people will signal to them like, yeah, screw the deal. But at the same time, they kind of know that with the sanctions, they don't even have room to breathe. So they will signal to the audience that we don't, like, screw the deal. We're going to make sure that the deal doesn't happen as much as we can, or if it does happen, it has to be on our terms. But behind the scenes, they're trying to find a way for the deal to go through. Like they're taking a tough stance, but maybe not in reality, right? The people who are reformist, they are the least relevant people right now. They have the least number of followers right now. People who used to be reformists have given up on reformists, and they're now against the entire regime as a whole. These are the people who are still saying that, oh, look, the deal was good. It was supposed to bring prosperity to Iran. It was Trump's fault that all of this happened. And a lot of people who are not with the regime, and they're like, no, the reform was just a joke. Reform was like a false hope. You guys are all the same. You use the idea of reform just to give a signal to us that maybe that we have a chance, but we don't have a chance. And every time things fall apart, you just want to blame it on Americans. We want to blame it on Trump. You want to blame it on this and that. They say like our enemies are in Iran. They're not in America. So the reformers are the least relevant movement right now, right?
Yeah.
And then the other group of people are the people who are against the regime as a whole. These are the people who are saying like, why do we need nuclear power? Why, like, look at how much, like, was it worth all this? Like, was this, look how isolated we've become. Like, what would have, like we have oil, we have gas. I mean, okay, fine, maybe some energy would have been great, but was it worth all of this? Like, you guys are just so stubborn that you keep pushing for something that has made us, like, they say this is not about nuclear energy. This is about you guys sticking it to all these other regimes, so that you don't have to have a relationship with them, so you could build enemies for your country, so you have an excuse to um, you know create a movement based on having foreign enemies. And so people are like, this is like not for the whole nuclear energy thing, is not for the people. Nothing has ever been for the people. And this has not, all of these negotiations and all of this stubbornness to have nuclear energy has brought nothing but misery. The cost, like they say, even if we ever get nuclear energy one day, whatever economic benefits that brings to us is going to be like nothing in comparison to all the hardship and all the missed opportunities of trade and prosperity that Iran have lost because of it in so many years. So they're like, this is all like a joke, right? So that's what they think.
Hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.